So I graduated from high school in June of 1984. I had wanted to be a biologist or a doctor, but when I moved to Walla Walla, they didn't have advanced placement biology class. So in frustration, I took every difficult class I could find, and ended up in computers of all things, which was not where I thought I was going. I figured it was something to bide the time. But it turned out I was good at it. So I ended up being a TA and teaching computers. My mom, meanwhile, was working at the Walla Walla VA Medical Center. And so my senior year, '84, when I graduated, I wasn't sure what I was going to do with myself. I mean, I still really wanted to be a microbiologist or doctor, but it was out of the question. I'd gotten off the track. And she said, well, they're getting a new computer at the VA, and I should go down there and talk to them. And she hustled me over there. I wasn't really enthusiastic about it. And sure enough, I arrived the day that the box arrived with a Plessy computer in it and a bunch of tapes. And I had no idea what the system was or anything about it, but you know, I could follow instructions and make backups and so forth. So they said, okay, kid, you're hired. And yeah, it was, it changed my life. So I didn't realize at that point that I was being exposed to TED. I had no earthly idea what I was dealing with. For me at the time, it was just another computer language, an odd one, in just another setting, and again, an odd one, because they didn't have anything. We had to make all of the plugs and run all the wires and put in all the printers, and I actually got to, by sheer chance, I got to be at the beginning of VistA for a VA medical center, all the way up to when they had a full running system. And never during that whole year I was working at Walla Walla did I have any clue where this came from. The sum total of the explanation I got from Harold Ford, my exceptional boss, was there was some kind of political thing back in Washington, so we're stuck with this strange software and this unusual language. And I said, that's all right, I'll learn it. And by the time I left to move to Seattle, I was able to report to him, no, this thing is pretty neat. This has got some strange qualities that I've never seen before in a programming language or in a computer system. It's actually quite marvelous. And that was my first glimpse that we were dealing with something extraordinary. I worked for a year for Seattle VA. Again, no mention of TED, Marty, the Underground, anything. Didn't understand where the software came from. Little did I know, Seattle VA had been in the Underground. It was one of the sites from the Underground. I was walking again in Ted's shadow and had no idea. I was hired in '86 to work for National Development, where I took over Task Manager, which was Dr. Dave Wilson's creation out of Oklahoma City, although I didn't find that out till years later. Still, I had no idea that I was traipsing along as part of this legacy. And eventually I began to hear the stories of the Underground Railroad when I met Michael DeStasso, who was very verbal on the subject and exuberant. And I began to understand there was this revolution, there was this David and Goliath struggle, and it was amazing, you know, and it was somebody should write a book about that thing, was almost from the first time I heard it. And I think that's almost everybody's reaction the first time they hear the story of, you know, how this all came to be. But even then, I had not heard of Ted or Marty or Henry Heffernan, or, you know, I was beginning to get some of the names. It was putting together the hard hats, and when we were talking about maybe it's time to leave the VA and set up a nonprofit that could help people adopt VistA outside the federal government, that somehow we actually began to get the rest of the story. And the rest of the story being all the people that I knew who were involved came later. And that in the beginning, you know, there was Ted and then Marty and Henry, and their vision for what it was they wanted to accomplish. I wanted so badly to meet these guys, you know, because at that point, this was my whole career. I mean, this is everything that I've done for a living, and maybe every contribution I'll ever make in the world to help people stemmed from the work of Ted O'Neill. So we reached out. We began inviting him to the VistA community meetings and our sessions, and we got to meet him a few times. We got to talk to him a few times. We got to interview him and take notes about the stories about how this all came about. It's when I first got to hear from him how he almost became a Jesuit priest along with Henry Heffernan, but then at the last moment he fell in love with an amazing woman who changed his life.
He was dating her through seminary.
He talked about that. Yes, yes, yes. He said, you know, I want to be a priest, but on the other hand, there's this girl. But I want to be a priest. But, you know.
I was 14.
He wasn't 32 at that.
So, you know, gradually what became clear, and Henry Heffernan helped give me some of the backstory that Ted hadn't supplied about. In the beginning was the 60s and the studies that led into VistA and National Bureau of Standards and all. And I increasingly came to understand that this was a man who had stood up against an enormous, entrenched, and somewhat criminal bureaucracy. He had to sacrifice his career to do it, but he won. His vision of the software and of how we would practice medicine prevailed over powerful and sinister forces. I was astonished, as I learned the story, that when the Underground won, when they declared victory, when DHCP was named and it was decided it would roll out across the VA, that the VA didn't apologize and bring him back. I mean, why didn't they go seek him out and say, my God, you were right, we were wrong. We're breaking up that office, and we need you back and your vision to lead us in the way that you led against extraordinary odds. But they didn't. They abandoned him, which they should not have done. Which they should not have done. When you think about, between standardizing MUMPs and launching VistA, when you think about medical error and the rate of deaths and injuries caused by medical mistakes, you can start to, in your mind, tally up the numbers of how many people owe their lives to the sacrifice of his career. If he hadn't been such a determined, principled, courageous man who was willing to go right into the lion's den and say, you know, this has got to change, vast numbers of people would be dead today who are alive because of Ted. You think about, what does it take in a war to win a medal for saving lives? How many lives do you have to save before you get the highest honors? And you look at what Ted had to sacrifice and you think, this man is a genuine hero. He's the real deal, and has saved countless lives, and he deserves to be recognized. The VA, I hope that someday the VA will apologize, and I hope that someday his name will be put up on a plaque or a statue or somewhere permanent so that nobody ever forgets the amazing thing that he accomplished through the sacrifice of his career and through his vision. So I appreciate the chance to speak tonight.